Put some effort into it. Effort.
I got it.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to the 1990 Nintendo World Championships.
Wait a second. 26 years ago.
Is it 2016?
Hi.
My So, I am Mike Iarossi. I was a finalist in 1990 and the winner of the 1994 Power Quest.
I'm Thor Aackerlund. I won the 1990 NWC for 12 through 17.
I'm Chris Tang. I won the Los Angeles City Championships for the 1990 Nintendo World Championships. I'm also the Hawaii State Champion. I'm the Sega World Champion for the Sonic & Knuckles Rock the Rock $25,000 World Championship they had. And yeah.
We don't care about Sega here.
What about called money?
But I'm the Hawaii State Nintendo Champion, so.
So, Thor, you want to get started maybe with maybe how you got into the 90 tournament?
Okay. Well, as it so happens, we had a family that had all kinds of oddball gaming stuff when I was growing up. It was always kind of the less common things. We had an Atari 400. I think that was our first system in the house. We played like Pac-Man and Centipede and Dig Dug and all that kind of good stuff. The Atari 400 is a lot like a Commodore 64. We never had the cool consoles until my brother got a Master System in '87. That was a pretty sweet thing. That was the first time I saw a pad, actually. Everything else before that was the joystick. And then we had a house fire. We lost everything, and we got a house like in '89 later, and I mowed lawns and bought a Game Boy, and the Game Boy had Tetris, and I only had one friend in the neighborhood. His name was Aaron, and he had an NES and Nintendo Power, and then we saw the movie The Wizard, which came out before the contest, but they had the little pamphlet talking about the World Championship.
Who's seen The Wizard?
I feel sorry for all of you.
It's a classic now.
Bo Bridges and Christian Slater, I mean, it's great.
The Power Glove.
The power of
It's so bad.
It's so bad.
No, it actually is.
But yeah, playing on the Game Boy kind of prepared me a bit for it, I guess. And so I went to the NWC without owning an NES, but I could practice at my buddy's house sometimes, and it went pretty well. I got pretty far.
See, he didn't own an NES, but he owned everyone. Okay, I guess I grew up loving playing video games. I saw like stuff like Pac-Man and Space Invaders in the arcade. I wasn't very good at it in the arcades, but when Nintendo came out, my dad got me like a test market system from like some FAO Schwartz in New York or something, so I had one of the first systems out. I actually had to get a separate Super Mario Brothers, but it came with like the Gyromite and the Duck Hunt. And I played Super Mario. I found like the turtle trick on the stairs where you bounce on it and get like all the one-ups. Like I found that like by myself before any of the magazines even existed. So like prior to Nintendo, like I had like a ColecoVision and I'd read like all those nerdy 80s computer magazines. Some of them would have video game stuff, and there's one called Electronic Games that also had some console stuff like ColecoVision 2600, and I'd study that stuff. Like my dad was mean, so he wouldn't let me play my game system all the time. So what I would do is I would like look up like how to win at Pac-Man or like Ken Ustin's Guide to Mastering the Video Games, and I'd just read this stuff and study it just because I loved video games so much. But when Nintendo came around, I pretty much had the thing running like all the time, and I got to play it all the time, and I felt okay at it. I didn't know how good I was until like around like '89. Nintendo and Holiday Mart, I know it's a really funny name for a department store, but they had a big contest in Hawaii it was like the search for Hawaii's Nintendo champion, and they had like the TV station sponsored and stuff like that. And it was kind of a big deal because in Hawaii, everything is a lot closer, so everybody kind of knows each other, and like neighborhoods kind of have rivalries and stuff like that. And so I entered that contest not knowing what to expect. And we played Super Mario Brothers, and like the goal was like to get as far as you can with as many points and coins as possible. So in the end, it was like whoever won the game or beat the game with the most points. And I was the only one who actually beat the game, so I destroyed everyone. And so I was like, hey, maybe I'm pretty good at this. I won like this $1,000 big screen TV and a bunch of other stuff. So a year later, like my family had to move from Hawaii to California, and I was like, oh, I don't want to move. I'm just starting to like have friends and like girls, and like I was just like getting social attraction, and I was just like, man, I just destroyed my life by having to move to California, and I was depressed and upset, and I didn't really like look forward to living in California. Then they had this thing, in Nintendo Power. It's a Nintendo World Championships, and it was like a tour that they were having, and well, they didn't go to Hawaii, so that was like the one thing in my life that I was like, oh, they have now that I'm the Hawaii State Nintendo champion, maybe I can be a world champion for Nintendo, and being in California allowed me to enter it, and I entered in Oakland, California, which was closest. I lived in like kind of like San Jose, Sunnyvale area, which is north of like Los Angeles. It's closer to San Francisco. So I entered in Oakland, and I did pretty well actually. I came in third. A guy named Robin Mahara beat me, and he had also lost at his Oregon city, respectively, and then Oakland was his second city. Then he beat me there and sent me to Los Angeles, or they had it in Los Angeles the next week. So my mom drove me down to Los Angeles. We didn't have a hotel room. And I just slept in the car or whatever, and like stiff neck, and I competed there, and I did a lot better, and yeah, I won in LA. I hung out with this guy in the front, Mike Klug, and he was entering in the old people division. Well, that's what we called it, because like we were in the teenager division, which is like the tough age category. Apparently, it was funny. The oldest age category was the easiest one to win, because all the hard contestants were in the division that Thor and I were in, which is like the 12 to 17-year-olds.
I don't like you.
But hey, you got your spot, so that's still props. I mean, you still had to have skill to earn that. But yeah, from doing well in LA and hanging out with Mike Klug, it kind of launched my career in the game industry, and I worked on a lot of games like Street Fighter 2 or Street Fighter 3, Street Fighter Alpha 3, and Tetris, and a bunch of other popular games. And now I'm making my own games now. So the Nintendo World Championships profoundly affected my life, and yeah, and then it made me who I am today.
So, I mean, I've been gaming almost all my life. I started back in probably the very early 80s, maybe on like the Vectrex. There was, I don't remember which system it was, but there was one where you could put an overlay on the screen, and there was like a haunted house game. What was it?
Vectrex.
It was the Vectrex? Okay.
Yeah.
And I remember playing that, and I was like, wow, this is it. I'm doing this forever. So, I had an Atari 2600, and Intellivision, ColecoVision, I had all that stuff. And then Nintendo comes along, and it was right after the video game crash when, I was, kind of old enough to know that something happened, but didn't really know exactly what it was. Just video games just kind of almost went away there. They weren't as important for a little while. And then Nintendo comes along with their system and had Rob, which just looked awesome, but in functionality was terrible. No offense to anybody named Rob. It was Robotic Operating Buddy. It was totally different than actual Rob. So I got one of those, and I started playing, and I remember the game I really got hooked on was like Kung Fu. When you're just doing like the side scroller, and I was like the best at Kung Fu for a long time. I would go through that like 17 times, without dying. I was just amazing at that. And then, you play some other stuff, Zelda. When Zelda came out on the NES, that was just like the game that transformed gaming for me. Because it went from this game where it was just, you do these simple tasks, to Zelda actually became something where the game was so much more in depth. It was more than just finish the end of the stage. You were actually trying to accomplish these, what seemed like real goals, And then when you beat the game, it was like it started over, and everything was different. And I was like, this is amazing. I need to do this all the time. So, you know, that's what started it. And, you know, you fast forward a little bit, and then Tetris came out in '89. And, wow, I was hooked. For whatever reason, just Tetris grabbed me like no other game did at the time. And I played that game just all day, every day. I played so much of it that everybody I knew was good at it because that's all they did was watch me play it. You know? So like the girl I was dating at the time, she could play and get like 600,000 in Tetris, you know? And I would look at her like she's still terrible, you know? Well, I'm sitting there getting, you know, 900,000, you know? But that was just it. And then the '90 tournament comes along, and the first one I went to was in New York. It was at Jacob Javits Center. And I'm like, wow, this is massive. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen. There are just games everywhere. Final Fantasy was there. I think it was the first time I saw Final Fantasy. And it's just putting video games on a level that I had never seen before. So that was just such an amazing experience. But I mean, I didn't do well at all in that tournament that weekend, but I knew that they were coming to New Jersey, like maybe within a month. So I started preparing for that, and that's where I won. And I mean, it was close, you know, I had a terrible game in the finals, which made it really close. But, you know, I ended up winning and going to the finals in California, which I guess is what we're going to talk about next. Chris, you want to start with that?
Oh man. So yeah, all of the regional winners, there's like 90 of us. They were originally going to have it in Orlando, Florida, but then they changed it. I guess they ran out of budget, or maybe they decided that more people like lived closer to Los Angeles, so they had it at Universal Studios Hollywood instead. So my free trip to Florida became a free trip just down the state. Yeah, I think my mom was a little bummed about that.
Less exciting.
But yeah, they all flew us in, and they had some stuff set up. On one day, they had some practice stations set up for us, and it's kind of cool. Like the practice stations had like what we call a tombstone. It's this black plate that has like our name on it. And it had like what division we're in and what city we're in, so it really looked like a tombstone. I still call it a tombstone. And yeah, I keep it in my closet. It keeps me safe at night. Yeah, we got to practice there. They had something called the Power Feast. Does anyone remember that?
I don't.
The only thing I remember about it is my mom said it sucked.
Nice.
One of the funniest things about the NWC that they didn't bring to the finals was Nintendo Raps. That was hilarious.
I'm so happy they didn't do that.
It was like this little like side stage mini thing that was at all of the city tours where they would make a VHS tape of you like singing along or rapping to something. I never did it, but it was so funny.
Okay, they didn't have that in Oakland or LA, and I'm so glad they didn't.
I guess they were like, this is a terrible idea. We're just gonna stop it, but it was very entertaining.
But one thing that's musically involved that we do remember from the finals that terrifies us to this day is they made all 90 of us sing "We Are the Champions" by Queen. Even like the little kids had to sing it, and they were like prodding us like, "You got to sing We Are the Champions."
It's not that the little kids had to sing it. It's that the adults had to sing it.
I didn't even know who
little
Queen
kids.
was.
They have no idea what they're doing. They're just like, "Yay, we're on stage and we're doing stuff." I'm 7.
I don't know, teenage me was just like, this sucks, I just want to like kick some ass. Like, why am I up here singing? So
The thing about it is, you know, they're trying to get us to do this and be enthusiastic about it, you know, because they're filming this for TV or something. And it's just, you know, the adults are sitting there like, this is the dumbest thing ever. This is the best you can come up with, you know, because we won a tournament that we're supposed to sing We Are the Champions on stage. It's such a terrible song. I don't know, it was horrible. Every adult on stage, we're just whispering to each other like, this is garbage. Can we please just get out of here right now?
So you won't sing it for us then right now?
I didn't sing it on the stage, are you kidding me? Most of us just sat there with our, you know, scowls on our faces like, I want to murder you right now, you're an idiot for doing this. But yeah, that was one of the worst parts of the weekend was just having to go.
I wonder if
through
that's
that.
on YouTube.
And we
I hope
had
it's
to
not.
audition it.
Yeah, we had to do it several times. That was pre-Wayne's World, so Queen wasn't quite resurgent.
Yeah, I didn't even know what the song was at the time. Like, they were trying to say
They
it
were
was, like,
13, so
And Queen has lots of good songs, but that's not your great one.
it's not. Yeah. Let's move on from that.
Sure.
So I'm gonna have Thor talk last because he won the 90 tournament. So for me, getting to the finals, I mean, there were some other things that went on. So I kept in touch with like Nintendo counselors. You guys remember those? You call them up and get game hints and whatever. I knew a couple of them, and once they found out that I was going to be a finalist, you know, I would get updates from them on what was going on with like scores and new strategies that were coming up. So like when the Mario pattern changed from just clearing through the first stage and went to, you know, die up to the Goombas at the end and collect the coins, you know, I heard about that strategy. And then there was rumors going around that, you know, Thor's dad was recording the games and they figured out a pattern of some kind. So that was going around. And, you know, all these interesting things, but, you know, it didn't really help you if you didn't actually know these things, which really nobody did, right? We only knew that Thor was just getting these outstanding scores. You know, he was able to hit, you know, 3.5 and 4.2 million, which is outstanding since I think at the time my high was maybe like a 1.5, you know, maybe I could hit 2. But anything beyond that, it was just like over the world. So I get to the finals, and it was actually a really cool weekend. You know, you get there on Friday, and then it was do a bunch of stuff on Saturday. Like they did a press thing on Saturday where everybody was practicing. The press comes in and asks questions, and there was that. And there was some tours that we went on. We toured Universal City and things like that. And then there was a dinner. So one of the things I really remember about that weekend was there was this big dinner. I think it was the last dinner before the finals, Saturday night. And the parents of all the kids are the ones who really made this happen. But all they wanted was the cart. Nobody cared about any other prize they were giving out, but they all wanted the cart. And Nintendo did not want to do it. And the parents complained enough that when we had that dinner that night, they made the announcement that we're going to give you the cart. Everyone here is going to get a cart. And that was just elation from everybody there. I mean, they couldn't have made everybody happier by doing anything else.
Yeah, if you're wondering what the cart is, how many of you know what the Nintendo World Championships cartridge is? Yeah, it's the game cartridge that they used on the competition stations at Super Mario, Red Racer, and Tetris has some dip switches on it, so it's special, and they're numbered. So they're part of Nintendo lore and legend, and they're probably the most valuable cartridges on the system that you can collect.
Nintendo Power gave away like 6 of them.
26.
26? They gave away 26 golds?
26 golds.
So those are the more valuable version of them because they're rare. There's 90 of the gray cards and 26 golds. I mean, the gray cards start at 10K and the golds start at like 25K. You know, I don't know how many people still have theirs, but I mean, I sold mine in like 2000.
I've still got mine.
Me and my brother have ours that are. It's in the end of Indiana Jones. There's the warehouse that's like endless. That's where me and my brothers. My brother won 18 and up in Miami, so we could get the 4 tickets to all go to the finals.
So at the finals, okay, let's get back to the actual tournament now. So I was easily the best person in my age group. I was in the 18 and over. I was actually 19 at the time, and all these other old fogies that were there were horrible. They were just, a lot of them were just parents of younger kids that were just there, and not a lot of, there weren't a lot of adults that went to these tournaments, so they were a little easier to win. If you know how to play Tetris a little bit, then you could get through it. And that's what happened. But a lot of them were really cool. People like Tim Ross, you know, Cassandra Ross. There was a lot of really cool people in the 18 and over age group. But what it was they would, when Sunday came, all 30 people in each age group, you would all play. And you'd all play at the same time. and they would take the top 7 scores, and you'd go on stage, and then the top 7 play, and then the top 2 play, and then that's your winner. So out of the top 30, I was number 1 going on stage, and then I choked and never want to talk about that again. But no, it was pretty horrible. I was actually pretty devastated that I lost that. I completely broke down. You know, I was such an arrogant shit back then. I was totally terrible. So I mean, I won the '94 tournament 4 years later, which was kind of redemption. But the thing about that is I didn't care nearly as much about the '94 tournament because Tetris wasn't in it. Tetris, winning that tournament meant more because Tetris was in it. '94 had Ken Griffey instead of Tetris, right? And who cares? You hit more home runs than Ken Griffey Jr. Congratulations, you know. I mean, it still feels good to win, but I wanted that '90 tournament. And next.
Let's see, my NWC experience flying into California. Russia House was going on at the time, so there was Michelle Pfeiffer and Sean Connery. I was just blown away by all the celebrities and Sly and Stage Stallone, the Full House guys, and as like a 13-year-old, it was amazing to see California. I had a rival there. We all remember him. If anybody can find this guy, it's going to be awesome. A lot of us have been trying for years. Jeff Falco.
I remember Jeff. I tried to get Jeff Hansen to come here, and he couldn't make it. He was on vacation this weekend.
So the night before the finals, me and Jeff have a face-off with Herzog Zwei and the Sega Genesis. Like, we weren't practicing Nintendo stuff. We were just like head-to-head battling it out on the Sega game.
Yeah, Jeff Falco is quite a character. He actually had hats and shirts that say like Jeff knows Tetris and Jeff knows video games, and they would be like in like the '70s, like kind of like the fat font. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know what it's called, but yeah.
And bear in mind that he's from an Italian family from Berwyn, which is like a gangster suburb of Chicago, and he had the full accent. You know, he was like Mobster Jr. And I went to visit him, and he had like 2 grandmas in his basement. He was like on one of those 3-story old Chicago houses. He was just such a cool guy. He was so funny. But that was the cool thing about the experience, is all the different personalities. And it was pre-internet, you know, so it's not like we had social media. So, you know, we would share secrets with each other, and we'd establish little rivalries, and it was very personal. It made everything a lot more satisfying to get to know these people. Versus, I know they did the 2015 contest that they flew me out there, but I wasn't like competing in or anything. But there was no lead up to the 2015. It was just like kabam, you know, we qualify one weekend, and then there's the finals, and it's over. NWC 90 was 9 months, and you really got to know the personalities over the experience.
How many cities did you go to?
Dallas, Houston, Oklahoma City, Atlanta, New Orleans, Miami, and Tampa.
Sounds like a Huey Lewis song or something.
That's like us in 1994. Me and Dorian and a bunch of us. I mean, we basically traveled the whole Northeast, just going to, I don't know, 18 cities or something, trying to get all of our friends to win, because they went to 132 cities that year. I mean, it was all smaller. And in 1990, they went to arenas. You know, they were filling arenas. But in 94, they went to much smaller venues like Walmart, you know. They'd go out in a parking lot. So it was that's different.
You know what, that gives me the idea that like a perfect hybrid, I think, would have been doing that as a lead up, and then having people get offered to go to a bigger city for the arena battles and then go to the finals. At the time in '90, I think we all thought that it was going to be an annual like mega event, kind of like our gaming Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, they'd have the announcer say like, hey, do you want to see it next year? You know, like, you know, tell Nintendo or something that you want to see it next year, but they kind of didn't.
Obviously, it didn't make financial sense for them. Otherwise, they would have did it every year.
Yeah, actually, they scaled back. Like I said, instead of sending us to Florida, they sent us to Hollywood. And then they said that it was going to be on TV, and that there was going to be all this media buzz about it. And then it wasn't. It wasn't on TV, which was kind of disappointing.
Yeah, I think that probably confused like the Stallones and the Full House people and all that, because they still had all these celebrities booked and that came, but you know, there was like local TV stations that were doing little news segments, but it wasn't like a, blocked off, here's an hour or 2 hour broadcast or anything like that. Then I got interviewed by a Japanese gaming publication, which was really strange because I don't speak Japanese. I wish I did. But I have no idea how that came across to the Japanese people. Hopefully, well, I'm sure I was mistranslated. It's probably really funny if you can find that.
So what happened when you won?
Let's see. Terry leads Horak. The story won't make sense unless you know this guy, okay?
He's the announcer.
Adrenaline, caffeine, pure energy, joy, positivity. The guy was like a dynamo, and he's so funny and just generally nice person. And he gets ramped up, and like his energy expounds and builds on itself. So he's like a fireball running around like Tetris. He was a great announcer for the thing. So right after the finals, like I think they did 18 and up to get that winner, then they did 11 and under to get that winner, and then they reserved the 12 through 17 for the final winner. And then he rounded everybody up to do an immediate 3-way runoff. And after that, they just they pulled us aside and gave us our trophies. And then the interview started, and it was it's kind of overwhelming. I didn't start to have more fun with it until later on. I got to go to Redmond to the Nintendo headquarters, and I spent the day with Howard. And Howard
He's a cool guy.
So cool. Yeah, he's exactly his character. It's like
He is.
it's not an act. He's genuinely, that's him. And he had a Volvo and his bow tie, and that was where I had the most fun, is just being able to spend time with good people.
He reminds me a lot of Walter.
Yeah, he's a character. He's an original. He's not a derivative of anything. He's 100%.
I did something with MTV with him.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I haven't seen him since December of '91.
Yeah, I don't remember when I saw him, but it was a long time ago. So, what other opportunities came your way after you won? I mean, did they just kind of forget about you after a while, or?
I don't think they knew what to do with me.
Yeah, I had that same problem in '94.
Cameron did.
I wasn't exactly the Nintendo poster boy.
Yeah, the Nintendo personnel that I dealt with, like Howard, were incredibly kind and nice to me. But as far as like a business or anything like that, I don't think that they made any overtures or offers or anything. I think they just kind of brushed it away. They did send Jeff Hansen to Japan to play against the Japanese Nintendo champion. He won very, very decisively there.
Jeff was there in '94. After I won, he came to a hotel room, and I chatted with him for a little while. He's a good kid.
Yeah.
Jeff won the 11 and under age group. Robert Whiteman won the 18 and over, and
I won the SNK Neo Geo Fatal Fury contest. And the SNK Japanese chief handed me the box. It was about as big as he was, because that thing was huge. I had to beat this guy named Chad Okada, the Game Lord. Yes.
Oh yeah, I remember that guy.
That was very intense. He was pretty nice. I still have a conspiracy theory that he threw it on purpose because it was a good PR deal. That Nintendo champion, SNK, possibly. I don't know.
so here's a question that I've always wanted to ask you. What happened with that endorsement that you did?
Oh, well, you have to remember I was 13.
I'm guessing your dad did the endorsement.
Oh yeah. I had zero input on anything. Nobody would listen to me at all.
So just for some background, I don't remember the name of the company. Maybe somebody else does. But
Camerica.
Ford didn't.
America.
What was it?
Camerica.
America. Okay. They were a non-licensed Nintendo company. They made non-licensed, I think just products. I don't think they made games.
They did.
They made games.
Yeah,
Did they?
they did games.
Well, anyway, Ford made an endorsement for them, and it was in like EGM and all these things, and it just seemed really weird because it seemed like Nintendo would kind of shun him because he was like the face of Nintendo, and he was promoting an unlicensed product.
That's actually part of Camera Chris' strategy, is that they were able to use the words Nintendo World Champion
Right.
endorses this game, but they're not officially licensed. So it's a way of fooling the public into thinking that this was sort of like a way of getting around being a legitimate product, but yet appearing legitimate to the public.
Which Chris totally takes advantage of to this day with his new memes that he makes with Thor's pictures. But tell me about like what happened with that.
Well, yeah, I had almost no input whatsoever. My dad just like, okay, you're doing this, okay. You know. It started out pretty decently in a way, because the first game I got to see from them is a British developer actually making games that were published by a Canadian company in America. So they made the Game Genie, which was cool, and they made Micro Machines, which was fun. I liked it. It wasn't like a perfect game, but it was pretty good. And then they started sending me boxes of their successive games that were not as good. Some of them I really didn't like at all. And I didn't really have a lot to say about them, so they would put these really hilarious quotes on the boxes that were obviously like quotes from the developers, because they were very much British quotes. Like absolutely brilliant, which is a colloquial.
I know tons of 13-year-olds that say that.
Oh man. Yeah, I was always hopeful that the next game was going to be great, and then I was also telling him, hey, we need to really get into the 16-bit thing, because this was like 92, 93. I'm like, hey guys, people aren't going to be buying NES forever. And then nobody listened to me, so I was just a name on a box.
Did Nintendo ever say anything to you about it, or
No.
no? When I won in '94, I had to sign a non-endorsement agreement.
That was probably in direct response to what
I
happened.
guarantee it was.
Yeah, I bet
It was like 5 years or something.
I bet they wish that they had retained me after looking at what happened with America.
So let's fast forward. Well, Chris, do you have anything out on the 1990 tournament?
Yeah. Well, I guess I want to talk about what the tournament led me to afterwards, and so my run in the finals. When I got to Los Angeles, I heard that other people had gone to other cities, and the scores were absolutely insane, and I'm like 4 million, those cheaters. I was like, what's up with that? And then Robin Mahara, who had beaten me in Oakland, remembered me. He saw me. He was like, "Whoa, Chris, you made it!" Because he had defeated me and he didn't expect to see me. But then I had gone to LA, and other people didn't know I'd gone to LA. So I actually did officially it was like 3 weeks, because it was like one week in Oakland, and I won the first week in LA, and then I went to the second week in LA just for fun. And then the next thing was the finals, which were, everybody showed up at, and Robin said, "Yeah, there's a new Mario pattern I got to teach you," and he actually taught me the Mario pattern, and I adapted, and my scores actually got really much better in practice, and I came in, I think eighth place, just shy of the top 7, and I even like paused like the video like a week ago to see what my score was, and yeah, it was really close. There's so many 1.9 something millions, and mine was the highest of them. So I came in like just shy of the top 7, but I was really happy with my performance. And while I wasn't happy that I didn't win, like just seeing Thor and how good he was, I was just like, he put the time in, he has the skill, like there's no way, like he was the one who deserved to win, and he won. So I'll be happy with that. And the other thing that I was walking away with was that I had already started kind of working at Tengen, or Atari, which was another unlicensed Nintendo manufacturing company. So it's really funny that both Thor and I entered the Nintendo World Championships, and because of the events, we ended up working at companies that were like their enemy, or sort of like unlicensed and unauthorized, or like the rebel companies. And my first exposure to Tetris was actually through the Atari arcade Tetris, which then became the Tengen cartridge Tetris. So I felt like those were like the first Tetris games, and then the Nintendo one actually came after that.
I just want to say that you're a traitor. You're both
I love video
traitors.
games. I can't just be just a fan of Nintendo. And when a company does wrong, I call them out on it. But I'm a fan of like Nintendo sometimes, and sometimes I'm a fan of Sega, NEC. Video games are games, and we all love all the platforms that we're exposed to. So there's good in all of them. Yeah. So yeah, I worked at Tengen after that, so I was like, okay, well, I didn't win the whole thing, but a better prize is like being able to work at a game company. So I did that for a while, and I would go to CES, and then I'd see Thor would be hanging out at the Street Fighter machine. So it was great. And then one thing I remember about Thor was, he would walk up to us group of players, and he'd say, "Hi, I'm Thor Aackerlund, and I'm good at games." and I was just like. So I was just like, okay, why did you just do that?
I'm totally using that.
Yeah. I was like, is that a pickup line? But we're all like, dudes crowding around a Street Fighter machine, so we didn't know what that was. And I didn't find out until years later when we got reacquainted with each other in like 2010. And I was like, okay, that's like a marketing thing that he was taught to do. So that sort of tied up that loose end. But yeah, so I started a career in the game industry after that. And in 1994. They had a bigger Sega contest, and that one was truly worldwide. They had people from Brazil, France, Germany. They had the preliminaries at Hard Rock Cafe locations, and they flew all the winners from the regionals that happened simultaneously, so you could not city hop. They all happened at the same time. They all flew you to Alcatraz for the finals, and there's 30 winners from that. And unlike the Nintendo contest, this one was on TV. It was on MTV, and they had it on Alcatraz. The prize was $25,000, and every product Sega made for 2 years. And people like developers like Yuji Naka, who's the creator of Sonic the Hedgehog, and Tom Kalinske, who was the guy who ran Sega at the time, they were all involved in this. And this was like this giant production. It was the biggest esports thing that they had for its time. And I won that in 1994. So that was my vindication. And I felt that losing or not being Thor in 1990, it's like I had to earn my way to win the one I really felt was representative of the one I wanted to win, and I was really happy that I got the one in '94 for Sega. So he's the Nintendo World Champion, and he's the Nintendo World Champion in '94, and I'm the Sega World Champion. So it's kind of cool. And one thing that happened that I'm still doing to this day is because I guess I knew a lot of the Tetris competitors, and I was in the Nintendo World Championships. My current job for the Tetris World Championships is I am the announcer, and I've been the announcer for every year they've had it since 2010. So if you go to the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, which is another great show, it's actually friends with this convention. They have a Tetris World Championships there every year, and Thor showed up for the first one, and there's a great documentary called Ecstasy of Order: The Tetris Masters, which chronicles the events of the 2010 Tetris World Championships. You should all check it out. It's a great movie. It's actually been called one of the best video game movies ever made by Destructoid. So.
What's it called again?
Ecstasy of Order: The Tetris Masters. I should have brought like promo cards for it or something, but yeah, we're both in it, and it's about Tetris competition. You get to find out more about Thor. I highly recommend it if you like what we're talking about, and if you want to hear more about Tetris and Tetris history, especially NES Tetris. There's still a hot NES Tetris competitive scene, and we do it every year in Portland. It's in October. We live stream it on Twitch, so if you want to tune in to Twitch around October, that's when we have it. And they haven't asked me to be announcer this year, but I've been the announcer every year, so I'll probably be it again. So it's a good show.
So we fast forward a few years, and they didn't really do any major championships for a while. I mean, there were some here and there. They had Star Fox. They did
I did.
Country.
I got the Star Fox jacket actually.
I did too. I had two of them.
Nice.
Yeah. We would always go to these, and they're always fun. They did one for the Wii. I believe they even did one for the Wii U.
I must have missed those.
I think they did. But last year they decided to bring back the Nintendo World Championships. And
2015, it was at E3.
Right. So it was much lower scale. It was one day, 8 cities. So compared to all the other ones, which
the
were
preliminaries
132 cities or 30 cities, this was a single day at 8 Best Buy locations around the country. And the games were Mario Brothers. What was the second?
No, it was the NWC retro, and NES. It was on NES Remix.
Yeah.
NES Remix.
Right, it was NES Remix, but what was the
Super
second?
Mario 3. Oh, it's 2 Mario games.
Super Mario.
Super Mario 1, 3.
Then Dr. Mario.
Dr. Mario.
Right,
Yeah.
Mario 1 and Mario 3 and Dr. Mario. And Dr. Mario is a terrible competition game, I just want to say.
It's the reason I did
They
better.
use it because they think it's like Tetris and they own it, but Dr. Mario is a horrible competition game because it relies on a lot of luck. No matter how good you are at the game, you can lose to somebody who is not as good as you because of the pattern that you get. There's nothing you can do about that. So it was an unfortunate way that they did the tournament, but I competed in it anyway, which was kind of a miserable experience because I went to Chicago and it rained. And Best Buy wasn't letting competitors in unless they were competing, so I stood in the rain for 3 hours. And that was not optimal. So, you know, I'm drenched by the time I get inside. And it was like you can only play once, you know, because they were expecting, you know, so many people that everybody would only get to play one game. Those rules changed later on.
Yeah,
in the
midday
day.
they changed the rules, so people that thought they could only play once played their one game and left. And
Like
then
me.
other people came in later, camped on it, played over and over and over and over again until they beat their score. And they got the, you know, it's like one set of people had one set of rules and another had another, so it was not exactly fair.
I really wanted to be the only person that was a finalist at all three. I really wanted that. But they invited Thor to the finals, and how was that?
It was interesting. I was honored to be there. They had a seat for me and Jeff Hansen up front, and we were just basically audience members that had a brief introduction. But I wasn't feeling well, so I watched like the first 4 minutes or something. Then I spent the next 4 hours outside talking to a homeless man.
Yeah, I saw you at the beginning of the stream, and then I didn't see you after that, and I was like, oh man, where's Thor?
Yeah, I was like,
That's where you disappeared to.
yeah, it was very interesting. The guy had
It was a really cool tournament that they did. It wasn't like other years, you know. They spread the games out. They played Splatoon. They played Smash Brothers. They played New Super Mario Brothers. They played Mario Maker. It was just a whole mash of different games that they played. And this guy Numbers, who was probably the best at the Dr. Mario cartridge, he ended up winning the whole thing. And it's maybe somebody that we might try and get here next year for this event. But we'll see how, you know, he responds to that.
Yeah, I had a number of criticisms of the way they went about things, but I was absolutely satisfied that, you know, he was the guy that should have been the winner.
Yeah.
Given,
He was the best player.
yeah, best man won.
Yeah.
I was sad for my buddy Vince though. My friend Vince Clemente, he was another guy that got kind of screwed on the deal because of the rule change midday, because he was like one of the top 2 or 3 best players in the country. And he put up a great score, left, and didn't have the information that they were going to start letting people play infinitely. And somebody finally beat him at the last minute after playing like 75 times or something. I was like, that's not really very nice.
It was a very unsatisfying experience, that whole competition on that day. You know, I mean, the rain didn't help for sure, but you know, it's Nintendo. You would hope that they plan things out better. And the fact that, you know, I went there, I played, and you know, they specifically said you only get one game. So I went to Galloping Ghost and hung out with Walter Day for the rest of the day. You know, and then all of a sudden I get a call from my friend Dorian, like 5 minutes before Best Buy is going to close, where the tournament was, and he's like, they're letting us play as much as we want. And I'm like, well, that's sweet. They close in 5 minutes, and I'm 45 minutes away from it. Thanks.
If you were closer, could you have come back and played?
I could have, you know, but I mean, with 5 minutes left, what was I going to do? You know, I would have had to go there and wait in line, and there was no way. It was just unfortunate how they ran it, you know. So, I mean, I like Nintendo, and I hope they bring something like that back on a more consistent basis. I'm sorry, I'm checking the time just to see how much we have left here. So we've got about 11 minutes left.
Should open up to questions.
And we want questions from you guys.
Yeah.
So what do you got for anybody?
Rob?
What's the biggest thing you guys learned by going through that experience? How did it change you as people, and at what point did you realize that that event really impacted you as a person? Not necessarily a career like you guys had mentioned, but you guys kind of maybe had a grown-up moment there that, like, wow, things are different going forward.
You know, when I lost 90, I touched on it a little bit. I was crushed, you know. I was really arrogant. I was 19 years old, and I was the shit, you know. I knew I was the best player in that age group, and even though I lost, I still know that I was the best player, however arrogant that is. But when I lost, I mean, it makes you humble, you know, and that's the one, I guess that's the one thing that you learn. And when I went there in 94, I didn't have that same attitude, you know. There was, I have to tell this story, but there was the first tournament we went to in 94. I'm just going to do this really quick. It's a much longer story, but I'm just going to run through it really quick. The first tournament we went through in 94, it was me, it was Dorian, and a couple other friends of ours, and this little kid who wasn't even in the top 8. Okay, somebody didn't show up, so he gets to play. He ends up winning the whole thing and beating me. This kid's like 8, 9 years old. I don't know. He's young, but you know, even then, I didn't mind. I was just like, you know, congrats. And I mean, he's all excited. I beat you. He's over the world, you know. So I'm like, cool. I'll win next week or whatever. We're gonna go to 100 of these. I don't care. I'm gonna play until I win. And I literally won the next city, which is hilarious because we get there and the same guy is running it, and he's teaching a new guy how to run the tournament. And he's like, "This is Mike. He'll be your winner for the weekend." Literally what he said, and of course I did win that weekend, and Dorian won the third week, and like I said, we got a bunch of people. Fast forward to the finals, that little kid is there, and he sees me the whole weekend, he's just like, "I'm gonna beat you, lightning's gonna strike twice," and he does this talk shit the whole weekend. And this kid, every time I see him, and his mother's there, just, you know, while he's talking shit, and I'm just like, really? Do something. And so it comes to the finals, and we play, and he goes up there and he plays, and he just plays horrible. He comes back to his seat, and I'm like, "I don't think you're gonna make it." And he just balls on the spot, and I'm like, oh, that's what you get for fucking with me.
I wonder if it's the same kid that, there was a kid in LA that said, "I'm gonna kick your butt."
No, he's not from LA. A little add-on to that story. What was his name? I can't remember either. James Sorge, okay? The only reason I know this is because everybody Googles their own name once in a while, just to see what comes up. And I did this once, and there was some kid, it was him, posting on a forum, and he had like this tag on his post, and it would be like, "James Sorge versus Mike Iarossi. It will happen again. I will have my revenge, blah, blah."
Wow.
12 years later. This is like 2006. And I'm like, I fucking scarred this kid for life. This is
Still looking for it.
So you
still
learned-
looking for him.
You learned humility and vengeance.
What did you learn, Thor?
I had all these dreams that I was going to help my family out. We were in a terrible spot before that. And it sort of helped us float for a couple of years, and then everything just went horribly, and nobody would listen to me. And I learned suffering from it for the most part, for the longest time. And Chris and Robin and people that looked me up in 2010 kind of dusted me off and helped me look at things differently. That's when I really realized the important thing about it was the people, not the games, not winning. Winning didn't mean anything. It was the shared experience that meant something.
Chris?
That's a really good one. I would like to add on that too. The reason why I ended up getting reacquainted with Thor and Robin was because I was having some hard times. I ended up putting my NWC cartridge up on eBay, and 10 minutes after I put the listing up, I get this email from Robin Mahara, and I remembered him, and I even like Googled him a little bit later, and it turned out that Robin had written all these great articles about the NWC and the experience, and he had pictures of him and me and us playing. And then I remembered, he taught me like how to do the new Mario pattern, which is like, why would he teach like a competitor like who could possibly beat him like how to be better at the game? Like my mindset was like, I would never do that. Like I'm trying to win. I'm not going to help anyone. Why did he help me? And it's because, people can be good, and maybe it is more than just a competition. And maybe I needed to be more like that, and give back and make friends at these competitions. And I didn't realize then, but in 2010, I did realize that maybe these are the people that are going to be friends for the rest of my life. And that's what I'm really thankful for, being able to hang out with Thor and meeting, Mike now, and, Mike Plug that got me into the game industry down there. Like, it's the path that you take in your life, and these competitions They do teach you, and you learn through experience, and you're struggling, but then sometimes there's like, light at the end. And even if you lose, like, you've got friends from that, and there's always good in everything. I worked on Street Fighter 3 and Street Fighter Alpha 3. I wrote a lot of win quotes, so when the characters beat each other up, they'll say something. So one of the ones I wrote for Ryu, he's like a famous character, the one, the white gi. Whether we win or lose, all of our battles make us stronger. And that's something he says that when he wins, and I think that's something that I can attribute to being a competitor and then learning and being a better person through competition. And that reflects on what Thor just said too.
I just wanted to know how old you were when you won the Sega competition.
I think I was like 16 or 17.
Oh my gosh, how did you handle that at such a young age? That's a lot of money and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
were you like, holy crap?
Well, the thing is, I was already, when I was like 12 or, I don't know, I was like 11 or 12 when I won the the Hawaii State Nintendo Championships. So I'd been in a lot of competitions. And around the time of the Sega competition, I was fighting in Street Fighter contests like every week. Like, it was brutal. Like, so during the day, I was working on video games. I was working on, I think I was working on Primal Rage at the time. Has anyone seen a game called Primal Rage? Yeah, it's like a fighting game with dinosaurs. And I was a game designer on that. So like when the characters like fight you, like how they like do attacks and stuff, I wrote their AI, and I designed some of the moves, and I wrote the story and did a lot of stuff on Primal Rage 2.
So I can blame you?
What's that?
I can blame you.
I guess so. Yeah. If you don't like that game, yeah, part of it's my fault. I actually tried to make the game better, but yeah, it ended up not being as good as I wanted it to be. Did you?
I
So,
like
so you
it.
said Sega gave you like all the products? For
Yes, I had. They would mail me for 2 years. They gave me
Everything
all the
they did?
hardware, all the games. I still have a lot of it. Yeah, it was the
That's amazing.
craziest prize. In addition to the $25,000, a week after the contest, they sent me to Sega headquarters, and they had this big corporate meeting where everybody in the company like was required to go to it. And Tom Kalinske, who was the CEO of Sega at the time, went on stage, let me play around and show everybody how good I was, and showed like a little bit of the MTV special. Handed me this gigantic check for $25,000. I have like video and the pictures on my phone. If you approach me afterwards, if you want to see it, I'll be happy to share it. So it was this huge deal, and yeah, they sent me everything for 2 years. I was kind of like an unofficial spokesperson. I would hang out at their booth, like at trade shows and stuff, and
That's amazing.
it was just sort of like part of being. There's like a lot of us out there that like we work for magazines and we work for game companies and we enter competitions, and I was sort of like this part of this world, and I loved it because I was so young. So yeah, being really young and being able to do all this was like a dream come true, and I really felt like working hard and like competing and doing all this stuff, it was like a real privilege to do it, so I should work really hard and keep trying. And being in tune with video games, my life has revolved around video games, so I owe everything in my life to that, and being able to give back to it now and be able to have these talks and to share it with all of you is a precious gift in itself. So thanks for coming and listening to our story.
How'd you get the job at Tang?
This guy, so we just played and hung out, and he said, he handed me his business card, and like it said Tengen, and I'm like, oh my god, and like that, like all of a sudden I understood like what all that meant, because Tengen was like a direct competitor to Nintendo, and they had Tetris before Nintendo did. So I said, wow, that's great, and they said, come on in and try testing games, or hang out in the product development department. They had me do stuff there. I answered the phone for game counseling, and that was like a dream that I had when I was a kid. I would look at Nintendo Power and it would say, agent number, whatever, and like this guy have the power profile for the game counselors. I'm like, I want to be that guy. So in the end, like I ended up, answering the phone at Tengen, and I would like, answer, questions on like Gauntlet and stuff like that. And what was funny was I ended up working on a game called Gauntlet 4. It's one of the best Genesis games ever made. It has like the best music, like. You just have to see it. It's so good. But anyway, so I worked on that game, and I sort of like designed some of the RPG quest mode stuff in it, and I wrote the manuals so that it wouldn't be too hard for people to get stuck. They could read the manual and get some hints from it, and then eventually we'd get game counseling calls on it. So people would call Tengen game counseling, and occasionally, like someone would hand me the phone, or I'd pick up the phone and be a question on Gauntlet 4. So people would be calling into this number, and they would actually get someone who worked on the game answering the phone, helping them with the game.
Wow.
But they wouldn't know that, so it was like kind of a cool thing. Game counseling was like a product of its time before the internet.
So, I mean, we're supposed to go up to like 2:30, which we're just about hitting here, but the competition, we're allotted like 2.5 hours for it. So take some more
I can
questions.
roll
if
with
you
some more
guys have
questions. Behind, okay, we'll get to you next, but we'll go one.
Brandon.
For the qualifications for the 2015 World Championship, do you think it would have been better if it was held online than at the stores?
Possibly, but it's hard to say. Like I said, there's a lot of things that went wrong with that. One of them was the actual games, It should have been designed so much better. I thought Splatoon would have been so much better to use. There were so many interesting things they could have done with that. It would have promoted their, newest game essentially. But I don't know. I just think they missed the boat. I think it was kind of rushed, and online might have helped. But part of what makes these tournaments great is getting out there and being a part of it in person.
Competing live, it's really different from just playing a game by yourself. And like I said, and with Thor, meeting these people and being part of the contest and meeting new people and changing your life through these things. There's a lot of events held on a lot of different things throughout the world, but it could be like dance competitions, or it could be video game competitions, or it could be sports competitions. Whatever there is, people bond because they have a common interest. And like events like GameOn Expo are a really good example. Like everybody you see through the halls, they're dressed up like their favorite characters. You have a reason to talk to them, like because you might be fans of the same thing. Like, why not have something that people go out to and get to experience? So, in fact, the gaming convention, things like this are almost akin to those tournaments, back in the 90s and 2000s that brought people together that are gamers.
I relate a lot of it to Street Fighter, okay? The best days of Street Fighter were when you went to the arcade and played against people right there, You had trash talking and all that, but it didn't go anywhere near what happens online. If you play somebody who isn't sitting right next to you and will just talk all the shit they want, and it's stuff that, they would never say to your face.
Yep.
And it just becomes different because it's just not the same. I still play Street Fighter. I've got Street Fighter 5, but I don't play it nearly as much as I did when I played in the arcade because that was the best experience.
Yeah,
and that's gone when you're playing it online.
I would play Street Fighter. Like I'm actually still actively competitive in Street Fighter 2. So I would play HD Remix on the Xbox 360 online, and I'd play and I would do really well. And this always happened, no matter what. After I'm done with my session, I look at my mailbox. There's like 30 hate mails in there. and it was hilarious. I'm just like, yep, I had a good day, depending on the number of hate mail I get.
Chris is understating things a bit. He'll post something and be like, 116 consecutive wins, or something like that. He's insanely good at Street Fighter stuff.
Old Street Fighters. Oh.
Going back to the Tetris, like the Tengen and the Nintendo, didn't they have like a thing going on?
Yeah, there's a legal battle, and
were you there when that was going on?
so here's the interesting thing. So I'm probably the only person that worked for both Tengen and BPS. BPS is Bulletproof Software. They're the company that hooked Nintendo up with the actual legal Tetris license, the one that appeared on Game Boy and the one that appeared on the NES. If you notice, it says Bulletproof Software Nintendo. In the 90s, I worked for Tengen, and in 2001 to 2003, I worked for BPS. So what happened was there was a company called Microsoft that had the license for the computer versions of the game, and Tengen licensed it from Microsoft, thinking that they actually had the rights to it. When in actuality, it was only, they actually didn't have the real license to it. And a guy named Hank Rogers, who had licensed it for Japan, flew to Russia and found out that all of the licenses that had been distributed for Tetris were not correct. So he went then and, actually he almost got in trouble because he was publishing for the Nintendo Famicom at the time. And when he went to Elorg, they said, "What's this? This is illegal, this isn't legitimate." And then he started freaking out because the Russian mafia would be after him or something, and he was in kind of danger. He was on this trip. There's actually a documentary on this if you want to look more into it called Tetris from Russia with Love. It's out on YouTube, you can check it out. But the gist of it is that Hank Rogers went and negotiated the actual licenses for Tetris, got them for himself in Japan, got them for Nintendo on the Game Boy, and then got them for Nintendo on the NES in the US. And with that, Nintendo was able to shut down Tengen and prevent them from making any more Tetris cartridges, which is why they stopped being made and they're a lot more rare. That's a black Tang and Tetris cartridge versus the common Nintendo Tetris that you see and the one that we're having the contest on today. So that's what happened with that.
Wow.
Any more
What
questions?
was that documentary called again?
What's that?
What was that documentary called again?
It's called Tetris from Russia with Love. It's like a documentary. So
Dorian?
So if they did do another Nintendo World Championships, what would you each want to see as the competition games, and would you actually compete if they do these games?
There's no way I would compete. Games, I guess, I haven't really caught up. Something that is popular, I guess. I don't have a Wii U, I don't have a 3DS, so I'm out of touch on that.
So actually, I have good ideas on this because when we were watching the contest, we were like, what's up with this? You know, what it really should be on. And the set that I came up with that I would have really wanted to see on the Wii U would have been New Super Mario Wii U, Splatoon, and Hyrule Warriors. That would have been my lineup, and I would have definitely entered, especially if Hyrule Warriors were in it.
I still enjoy competing on like this level. Like there's two different types of competition for me. It's you versus the game when you're just going for score, and then there's direct competition. So in direct competition and indirect competition. These type of tournaments like this are indirect competition because you're just trying to put up a score and you're not playing one-on-one against somebody else like you are in Street Fighter, which is more of a direct competition. I'm not really a fan of direct competition, so I don't do most of the new stuff like League of Legends and stuff like that because there's so much, it's just highs and lows, you know? When you win, you're really happy. When you lose, you're pissed off at everybody that made you lose, which obviously wasn't your fault. It was everybody else's fault. So I usually try and stay away from stuff like that just because I want to enjoy my games. But as far as like what I would want to be in it, I really don't know. It's difficult to come up. I love Tetris, so I would want something Tetris-y, you know?
TGM?
You know, it's just so hard to say. There's so many good ways that they can do another tournament and have it actually be something that means something. Instead of just falling back on, you know, Dr. Mario like they did last
Yeah,
time.
on that note, I mean, that's the reason why we have the contest in Portland every year is because there's an interest in continuing it. So the Tetris World Championships is sort of a spiritual successor that continues just for people who want to compete on that version of Tetris.
Brandon, you had some?
Yeah. Is the documentary on Netflix?
It's on YouTube.
Oh.
For if you want to find out about the legal battle between different versions of Tetris. And it was by BBC, so if you type in BBC, Tetris, Russia, Love, you'll get it.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, and also, which documentary? Because there's two. There's one on the legal battle. Ecstasy of Order, I believe, is on Hulu. It might be on Hulu. Ecstasy of Order is the one about Thor and the 2010 championships.
Yep.
Both are excellent documentaries. So one's about competition, one's about legal battle.
Alright, I'll check them out.
Yeah.
As for like the Wii U, another one I think that might have done well, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. That would be the puzzle thing I think that was high.
That was the puzzle game from Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, that was made off of the Super Mario Brothers.
Right, where you would spin it. Yeah, that could be interesting.
That could be interesting, I think, if they were to do that being the puzzle aspect.
Have you guys ever played Tetris Sphere?
Tetrisphere. Yeah, I played Tetrisphere. I don't remember much about it, but I know I played it.
I haven't.
What your thoughts were on that game? I always did enjoy
I've played almost every Tetris game that has come out in the last 25 years. You know, I picked up that crappy Tetris Ultimate that they put out,
Oh, no.
you know, back in January, and it was so buggy. I mean, I tried playing it for like, I don't know, 2 weeks, and it was just like, wow, this is garbage, you know. And it annoys me. It's like Tetris is the easiest thing to do. Just make it good. Make it have good gameplay. Update the game when you have bugs. There was a bug where people could just keep spinning their piece at the top until you lined out when you were playing versus mode. You know, they would be literally off the screen, but they could still keep.
That's
like,
not a bug,
setting-
actually. That's something that BPS wants for current versions of Tetris.
It's part of the
Yeah.
Tetris
Yeah.
standard.
Yeah,
when I
well,
started working
well,
there,
they're
they
stupid.
started doing that stuff. And I tried to kind of get them away from that, but they they want it to be easy for noobs.
They're
pretty much.
stupid.
No, I agree. Like,
In a versus mode, that doesn't work.
No.
In a single player, I could see it, but
Right.
when you get into versus, people literally sit there and they can't die. They can't die.
right, like death in Tetris is actually what makes the game exciting.
So I dumped that like crazy. But you know, the interesting thing about it is there's a Tetris forum. Have you guys been to that?
Hard drop?
Yeah, hard drop. There's a player there, Caffeine. You know Caffeine?
I think so.
Caffeine is an amazing Tetris player. This is like the best Tetris player well, I can't say best I ever saw, because if you watched AGDQ last year, that guy played Grandmaster, and he dominated that game like I have never seen, you know. So that was awesome. But I've seen Caffeine play on like every version of Tetris that I've played for the last, I don't know, 15 years or so. And that guy is really good. And I know he posts on Hard Drop. So there's a lot of Tetris fans out there, you know, and I know that a lot of them are disappointed with these versions that they put out these days because they're lazy. They're just lazy versions of Tetris, which is garbage.
And they usually license it out to whoever is the highest bidder, which is usually a really big company like EA, or
Yeah.
in this case, Ubisoft.
It was Ubisoft, and they had some Soma Play made the game, and they're horrible. Yeah, it's unfortunate.
It's sad because TGM exists. It's a thing, it just needs to be here.
Right. Brandon?
What is your favorite and least favorite version of Tetris?
I like the NES version. I like the SNES version too. Like Tetris versus Dr. Mario was actually fun. You know, they had this little mode in there that you could play, and that was cool. But I mean, the NES Tetris it's something I fell out of love with after a while because it's such a difficult version of Tetris. I sat there, I played that game religiously for like 4 years, okay? High score like 915, right? I used to be able to play 19 like it was nothing. I can't touch 19 anymore. I get like 2 lines and I'm out. It's just something that original NES Tetris is a very strange version of Tetris because you have to deal with the momentum of the pieces, you know. If you want to get when you get to a really high level, if you want to get something over to the left, you have to have momentum in order to get it there. So the previous piece placement really mattered.
Or you gotta be like Thor and vibrate your thumbs.
When you hit bottom, the next piece comes. When that piece touches bottom, it's set, you know, and that is so much different than all the other versions of Tetris that have come out since, which are just much easier versions of Tetris. So if I had to pick one, it would probably be the NES version.
Yeah, it's really tough. Yeah, it's something called lock delay. So the piece, whenever it touches another piece or anything else, there's virtually 0 time in which to do anything else. It just click, snaps in. Whereas other versions are slippery and let you spin around and bounce and slide and stuff. You can't do that in the old school.
Right.
Yeah, I actually have a pretty good idea of what my favorite and not favorite versions are. So my least favorite version is actually BPS Famicom Tetris because the control scheme is totally screwed. Like, you don't actually hit buttons to rotate it, you use the D-pad to do it. It's awful. Like, I would not recommend it.
That sounds awful.
Yeah, it is, and yeah, it's awful. But my favorite version of Tetris is actually also made by BPS. It's called Super Tetris 2 plus Blombliss. Has anyone ever played that? It's for the Super Famicom.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, it's a really, when the pieces fall, they're actually smooth, like at 60 frames per second. You can lock down just a little bit, but you get like maybe like a half second of lockdown, you can still like move it off, but it doesn't let you spin it infinitely. So the movement is really smooth. You can always get it over to the left and right smoothly and instantly. And it has this other mode in the game that has bombs in it. And if you make a line clear and if it intersects with a bomb, there are these explosions that go off and they get bigger and bigger depending on how big the combo is. And my favorite thing about that is you could create a well and then you put like a roof over it and then you can build like a long piece and a long piece and a long piece. And then you detonate the one thing and this giant long piece of like 10 pieces haul goes into the hole, and it's like the most satisfying thing ever.
Cheater.
It's like
Cheating.
Yeah, that's how you're supposed to play it, actually. And then these giant explosions go off. We call it the big, attack.
There was a version of Tetris on the Dreamcast that was actually really good too. I don't remember what it was called, but I played that one a lot. That was it had really good gameplay. And then there was another one on the N64 that I enjoyed because it had some weird scoring rules. Like if you could make lines without ever turning your pieces, if you can get consecutive lines without turning your pieces, you would get just crazy score.
Yeah, that was actually on N64. That was a very strange product because there was one. I'm not sure if it's the same one you're talking about. Probably is. It was made by Capcom, and it was a Disney
It might have been.
Tetris.
Yeah. That was it. It was actually really good. I enjoyed that one. Any more? Yeah, what's up in the back?
I was gonna ask what about versions where you can hold a piece versus, those versions? How do you feel about that?
I don't mind the hold. It kind of adds to it, but it's harder when you don't. I want things to be harder. I want to challenge. I'm a Dark Souls guy. I'm wearing a Dark Souls shirt again today. I want to die. So holding it. I mean, it's okay. I don't mind it, but I could do without. I don't need to see the next 5 pieces either.
Well, to me, it's like another tool that you have. So if you're competing against other people who have that tool, then it does make it harder because if other people are better than you at it, then it increases the difficulty.
Sure. What's up?
What were we talking about with the vibrating of the thumb?
Oh, right. You'll find out a lot more about that if you watch Ecstasy of Order of the Tetris Masters.
Okay.
But what we noticed about Thor when we're in the finals for Tetris World Championships is that he moved his pieces differently than us. We would hold down the D-pad and it would automatically slide across. But Thor had the ability to vibrate his thumb, which actually moved it faster on startup than if you had just held it.
So if you
Thor
tap-
was crazy good at Tetris when
if
he
you
was
tap it,
13.
It'll go over quicker?
Yeah,
Yeah.
If you can tap it fast enough. And he was really good. I would watch him play. I still remember sitting here, just watching from a distance when he would play, and I was like, wow, this kid is.
Yeah, so definitely watch Ecstasy of Order because they talk about that and the mechanics of Tetris and how nested Tetris works.
I know I was going to say Tetris Plus on the PS1. Have you ever played that?
Yeah, I think I remember it being pretty good.
That's a pretty decent game.
Anybody else? What's up?
When I watched Ecstasy of Order, they kind of made it seem like you've been away from gaming for a while. So what was it like to kind of come back and reconnect with all this?
It was very surreal. I didn't really know what to expect, but Robin, was kind of like a long lost brother. Just we, were best friends just right off the bat. Once again, and it's so strange because it didn't feel like a whole lot of time had passed just hanging out with him and meeting him again. But yeah, I was very, very far from gaming for a long time. I played some things casually, but basically after around 94, I played almost nothing for about 20 years, except for some PC stuff.
When we were coming up with ideas for this year for GameOn, I wanted to get Thor here. I wanted to do the 90 tournament since we did 94 last year. So I wanted to get Jeff, I wanted to get Thor. And I messaged Thor a couple times and he never responded, And he's a pretty secretive guy, not very social. So one day, me and Dorian, we see him posting on Facebook. And it's like, he's there right now. I've tried sending him messages. Maybe he just doesn't like me or something, so go. And he responded, and he was open to it, and he wanted to go. And I was like, yes, Thor's in. I sent John a message. I'm like, yes, Thor's in. And that was it. That's what made this happen this year, was him showing up.
Yeah.
So, thanks
I
for
guess he
coming.
lobbied to get me here too. So
He did. It was shortly after that
I want to thank you guys for getting me here.
it was shortly after that he said, I got this guy, Chris Tang, he was a finalist, and he was a SEG champion. Can you get him too? And it's like, yeah.
Yeah, and I love this convention. It's great having you all here. Thank you for coming
It
to our
is.
panel
And,
again.
I mean, if you ever see John Lesser, just thank him because the guy is amazing for putting all this together. He does not get nearly enough thanks. I don't care how much thanks he gets, it's not nearly enough because that guy sits around and busts his ass this whole weekend. I don't know that he gets any enjoyment while he's here because he's just solving people's problems the whole thing. You saw him come on stage and he's asking me if I need anything while we're doing this, and I'm like, man, we're good. We got everything. It's all under control. We're gonna be fine. Go enjoy yourself or something, But that guy is seriously awesome. I can't thank him enough, and I hope I get to come back next year and we do something else,
Yeah.
I'll take one last question if somebody has one. Brandon, go ahead.
Have you heard of Tetris Grandmaster? If so, what are your experiences?
I haven't played it, so it's up to these guys.
I've played TGM2 on MAME. There's a guy in the movie Ecstasy of Order named Alex Kerr, who's I guess probably just about the best non-Japanese, non-European player, non-French specifically. It's really, really hard. It's really, really fair. It's my favorite contemporary version of Tetris. I wish that it was dominant here, but it's almost impossible to find in North America unless you emulate it.
Yeah, that's an arcade board, so you have to have an arcade machine. When I worked at BPS, they had like a Japanese cabinet with it in there, and the company that owns Tetris now is aware of it, but for some reason it's like it's made by Eureka in Japan, and they're like an offshoot of Capcom. They haven't made one in a while, and the arcade boards are going up in value because people know it's a good game and that there's a following for it. So it's a really difficult thing to be a fan of because it's expensive to own, or you have to know someone. You kind of have to have a little club of people that play on someone's machine in order to really get into it, get good on it. You can emulate some versions of it, but not all of them. So I think it's a great version. If you're really hardcore about Tetris, it has some great rules. It's a little bit, I mean, it's supposedly fair, but after a while, they change your lockdown times and things, and you literally have the piece teleport from here to down there, and then you have to get it there before it just snaps and lets you not move it anymore. So that to me isn't that fun, but other than that, yeah, it's a great evolution of the genre to where it needs for the hardcore Tetris player.
So before we move on to the next thing, I just want to say you guys are really great, and thanks for coming and listening to us talk about this. So,
Thank you.
thank you. So what we've got planned now is the actual finals from the tournament that we're running over in the arcade room. And I told some of you, I don't know how many of you know, but it's not going to be the same thing. We're not playing this cart. We're playing Tetris.
So no more Rad Racer, no more Mario.
No Mario, no anything. So here's how it's going to work. Anybody who had a score, because I don't know who our top players are here at the moment. I don't know how many we have. So if you had a score, just come up here and stand in the front, and we'll see how many of you guys we have. Okay? We're taking top 8. I think John said he had contacted at least 6. I mean, if only 8 people come up front, then you're all in. But here's how it's going to work. We're going to set up Tetris. We're going to have the monitor over here. You'll come up and play. It'll be on this too, so you can watch. But you're going to get 5 minutes to play Tetris. You could start on whatever level you want. You want to start on 19, have at it. I don't recommend that. But you get 5 minutes. If you line out, start again. Whatever your best score in that 5 minutes, we'll be paying attention. Whatever your best score is, that's it. So you get 5 minutes, and good luck to you. It's going to start with number 8, then 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So I mean, if you had a higher score, then you have the advantage of seeing what you have to beat. But that's going to be it. And it's going to be top 8. We're going to take 2, top 2 play. We're going to have 1, and that one guy is going to play all of us. And I'm going to beat everybody's ass. So give us a couple minutes to set this up and find out exactly what we've got here. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I see 8 people, so these are our 8.